So this is a conversation with Lindsay Randerson from Ways to Wellness. Boy, are you going to learn about some power of business partnerships. You're also going to learn about how to stay focused when you're studying. And you're also going to learn from Lindsay how she shifted from employment to self-employment and actually managed to launch a whole new business during the pandemic. This was a decision that she made by listening into the heart. Learn how self-care starts with you, extends to your family, and then can lead to you opening a new business simply based on sharing those experiences. Lindsay is a strong-willed, determined individual and is now going to extend that to trust and trusting in the process and what's ahead of her.
Okay, so this is a conversation with Lindsay Randerson. Now, she is the owner of the Ways to Wellness. She is a health and wellness mentor, and she's also a holistic therapist and all the way over on the Isle of Wight. Lindsay guides men and women to change their daily habits to optimize their health. Now, this lady has a wealth of over 30 years experience in hotel spas, development, education, and is now a self-confessed allotment geek. And it's all about bringing nutrition alive. So I'd really like to welcome Lindsay to the session today. Hi.
Thank you, Claire, for that introduction.
So I'm going to go straight into the first question, Lindsay, and it's really around studying, because I don't think I've met anybody quite like you that has studied to the degree that you have just in lockdowns. I have to say lockdowns plural because we're now in our second lockdown. Can you share with me what you've just learned this year alone?
Wow. Okay. So I started at the beginning of lockdown when I started with a piece of paper and just said, okay, what is it that I'm missing? What is it that I want to figure out about me? And I think for me, it was I did a mind map, and on the mind map, I sort of put in, I really want to get back to my creativity, my spark, my drive, and my purpose. So that was my first starting point of looking at where I wanted to move and flow into that. So my first ever was a weekend workshop that I signed up for, and it was it's called EAM. It's an energy alignment method, and it's a transformational self-help energy method. It's a tool that's based in kinesiology, neuroscience, quantum physics, and it works on looking at your thoughts, past thoughts, habits, beliefs, and patterns, and then with a daily technique, allowing you to change those and to set your intention of working with new habits. So that was the first workshop, and I was fascinated.
I was going to say, you started light.
Yeah, it was.
Quantum physics.
Yeah, it was a great workshop. It was an eye opener, and I really enjoyed it. And
did it ignite you to go further on? Did it ignite you on to the next thing?
Yeah, it did. And on that workshop, there was an amazing gentleman called Bruce Cryer. And Bruce Cryer was the, he's an author, he's a songwriter, he's a public figure in America. He's now in Connecticut, but he was part of the HeartMath Institute in New York he was CEO for 20 years. And his journey through HeartMath and the introduction of the heart and the connection with the heart, he was talking about a creative process, and he was just about to start another workshop called Creativity Unleashed, and I jumped on board onto that.
What a great title.
Yeah, so and that was looking at movement, mindfulness, and then igniting that creative process. And I think that was the starting point really of jumping into many studying. I've now taken on board, I'm doing a medicinal food diploma as well. And I'm also looking at Qigong, so training in Qigong, which is about deep breath and relaxation techniques through movement. But it's a Chinese modality as well, which is amazing.
Incredible. And we'll be getting onto some of that, in a bit, as we talk a bit more about health in a few moments, because it's had quite an impact on your family. So I just want to sort of take you back. I know it's a difficult place to go to because it was a place of uncertainty for you, and I appreciate you sharing today that you were made redundant around this time of the lockdown, and I'm sure, along with sadly many others, you also managed a team who were also made redundant. So I just really want to understand how you navigated that time.
Yeah, well, when we first went into lockdown, the first thing I wanted to do was try and keep the connection, try and keep something that we could all talk and converse with. So I set up a group. I set up a sort of WhatsApp group, and we met over a tea and a cake, weekly or bi-weekly, just so that we could have some contact, sharing experiences and sharing some tips, and just really having that connection. Because when you work with people and you are with them all day, every day, it's really important to keep reaching out and to keep that connection going. And I think that was the first point of contact, was to really make sure that everybody had a sort of a coming together, and we could all then focus on really just having a chat and a conversation, an open conversation if needed.
About how they were feeling in that moment.
I've got 8 immediate in my team, and then extensions over that. So that extended out to self-employed and part-time, and people that were not in the business all the time but would just pop in and out. So it was quite a big group at the end of it, but through that, I think it just gives you a common thread. It gives you a common, people need to feel connected. And I think that community is just lovely, really. It's lovely to share wins and, when you're not feeling great, and just really try and continue that human touch, because it's quite, it's quite difficult over a Zoom when you're used to the hugging and you're used to the, seeing people daily. But it was a good start, I think.
I think having a place where people could go, or the team could go, where they felt understood, where other people would relate to how they were feeling. They were never going to be on their own, and that I'm sure was incredibly powerful for not only yourself but for the team that that grew over that time, for sure. So it was an incredible one to navigate, and you've navigated it in what I would say quite an interesting way. You have opened and launched a completely new business during the lockdown, and my goodness, the what, why, when, how, they are all the questions I'd like. I guess why Ways to Wellness is a really good place to start, and what you hope to achieve with that particular business, and perhaps the how. Where did you start when it came to opening a new business in the lockdown?
I know. I know. Sometimes people say, "What are you doing?" I think for me it was just the organic process of opening up this creative process, and not feeling that I was locked, that I was connecting with people in New York, I was connecting with people in Europe, I was connecting with people in Spain. Lots of the courses, people were worldwide, all sharing common threads and common interests. And I think that was my first starting point, was to really, I'm not alone.
Be part of a bigger world,
the bigger community, and everybody was looking for that connection. And for me, it's just evolved. It's evolved through my love of food and the nutritional piece. It's evolved through my own work I'm doing on my EAM, and it's really a work that I want to share. I want to share Ways to Wellness, and that's really how it started, Claire. It was an organic process of, okay, now is the time. Now is the time. I have found a purpose. I found my spark, and I now want to put into place something that is a very easy step, very easy connection for people to start at the beginning and really want to change a habit or a daily habit, introducing self-care tips, introducing really healthy food swaps, but it's a very good starting point. And that's really where Ways to Wellness came in. It's self-care, daily habits, nutritional led business, and it's open to everybody, you know, because everybody needs this, you know, everybody is everybody wants to feel that they can have a starting place, and really a step-by-step process of just igniting that joy, igniting that passion, igniting that I am empowered to do this myself with the guiding steps of me, you know. So that's,
you really took ownership, didn't you? You know, you got to think you were in a position of redundancy, and not knowing your future, and somebody else essentially determining your future, and you took ownership of that, and look what you've manifested. I mean, that's incredible. Ways to Wellness.
I think intuition is an amazing thing, and I had a very strong feeling that I wasn't going back. And intuition, I think we don't listen to our intuition enough. And you know, when I did stop and start really listening in, really honing in, what is it? I knew that this wasn't going to, you know, happen. So it was the starting point for me to look at, you know, my own, start with myself and then move forward, and step by step.
And where in terms of the technicalities of sort of setting up a business, and where did you start? Did you build the website first? Did you just put all your focus on the education? Did you know, you had obviously social media to explore? I mean, where did you sort of really start? Did you start to sort of throw the ideas out there, or did you kind of do more planning behind and then share?
Yeah, I started planning first. I started with the planning piece first, and looking at, you know, also the study as well. So the planning and the study, and what I love, you know, and what I really enjoy and have a passion for. I've been in this industry for a long time, and it's an industry full of the most amazing practitioners, coaches, teachers, educators.
Agreed.
And I think coming together, you know, on my own business, I've invited different people to be a part of this journey with me. It's not just about me, you know. I have got coaches, practitioners, brands who are ready to support workshops, seminars, days. So it is a collective, and it's will move into being a bigger collective. But at the moment, you know, it's been a planning. Looking at the website was a little bit of a last minute thing for me. It was about the planning and the organizing and the social media first, and then just talking to people and saying, look, this is what I'm doing. Would you like to be part of this? You know, I have a huge amount of respect for the people in our industry, and you know, they've come back and really wanted to get on board and to bring their expertise in, and we will put that together and do workshops and seminars and things with them.
So one of those partnerships, and I think partnerships are, you know, an incredible aspect to business, actually, you know, where you are working together and uniting so that you're not alone. One of those is Duxmore Botanics. How did that come about?
Yeah, well, I worked with Charlotte about 10 years ago, and we were working for a brand, and Charlotte was doing the formulations and I was doing new product development. And we met then, and then we came again together about 3 years ago. And then we came together again about 5 months ago, and it just seemed to be a real coming together of two people that really wanted to connect and work together. And I said to her, gosh, it's like a circle that we keep coming across each other. So somebody's telling us something. We need to, so we had a conversation, and Charlotte from Duxmoor, who has the most amazing organics and botanical brands of candles and skincare, body care. And she's an amazing formulator. She used to formulate for this other brand. And so with her love and passion, and with myself, I've brought Charlotte on to support and partner up, which is, looking at self-care. Self-care is not just about the mind and the body, but it's a lovely way of looking at essential oils, of experimenting with smell, and also nurture. Nurture is a really big part of that self-care journey.
Yeah. So I'll put the links down for people to sort of check out your hampers that you've created together, because they are magical. You'll definitely not be short of any gift ideas this Christmas.
Yeah.
Now I want to sort of get back to that other discipline, part of your study into Qigong, and actually how, you're looking for routes to help people recover their health and well-being. You've put this to play quite literally, haven't you, within your family, within your husband, and of course your daughter as well. Would you mind sort of sharing that sort of, what you brought to fruition to help them?
Yeah, so unfortunately, my husband was diagnosed with atrial fibrillation about 3 weeks before we went into lockdown. So an atrial fibrillation is the heart is vibrating at a different, it's not pulsing, it's not pushing blood through enough. So there isn't enough blood flowing properly through two chambers of the heart, and we don't really know where that started. They don't really know. It's not a valvular problem, but it could be brought on by stress, and we started, well, when we went into lockdown, he was looking at going in and having an electrical shock to the heart to start the fibrillation and to see if they could kickstart the heart and the pulse working again properly. And then when we went into lockdown, that went out the window. So all operations stopping. And so we stopped and just paused and said, okay, if we're not going to get any help, where can we start? Where can we start this process? So we looked at different modalities of supporting him through his health. And the first one was awareness. How are you feeling? Let's check in this morning. Let's check in on, are you feeling well, or are you feeling well enough to be able to come outside, to go for a walk? And I think it became apparent that the stress and the overwhelm was a really fundamental part of the sort of lockdown. And we really started with looking at what do we do to step-by-step approach to making this work, or making his mental health as well as his physical health get better. So we started with awareness, checking in every morning. How do you really feel? How's your body feeling? Are you feeling, heavy? Are you feeling agitated? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Are you feeling stressed? And really just processing that. And then we started with breath. So we started looking at, how breath could help and support with stress. And so we started with the box breath method. So that was his preferred method of breathing. And then it was looking at nutrition, and then looking at really flooding his body with a huge amount of nutrition. So we started looking at, really rainbow of colours, and we were very lucky because obviously this was, April, May, so we had an abundance of, great veg. I have an allotment that we started in lockdown, so it was just really to get as much nutrition through him as well, make him feel more energized, make him feel that he was supporting his body.
Yeah.
And then we also started Qigong. And Qigong is a Chinese movement, and it's based on breath and movement. And it works with the energy of opening up gates within the body to allow energy and qi to flow. And that's been amazing. I mean, when we used to do that for half an hour every morning. Then we would walk out and have a walk, and then stay outside, in nature, and be able to do fun things, sit and have picnics, go into the garden. And over time, his health started to improve. And
you have quite an exciting outcome, don't you?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, it's he really did take on board that we were going to have to start at the beginning and look at solving this ourselves until such time as he needed surgery. But over this time, and 3 months in, he had a steroid because obviously there's a risk of stroke so we did have a steroid spray, which he took with him walking. And then he had a heart monitor and a smartwatch, which used to track his heart. And then over 2 or 3, 4 months, his heart started to normalize. His stress levels obviously were, leveling out. His health, he lost weight, he lost 10 pounds. He was fitter, stronger, healthier, eating better, waking up more energized, going to bed more energized, just a whole different
set. Exhausted.
Yeah. And when we finally did get to the hospital, they gave him the sign off and said, actually, we don't need to do surgery on you. We have atrial fibrillation stopped, heart's returned to normal, and you can go on, don't need to be on your steroids. And
that is just mind-blowing. Like, I find that mind-blowing to think that taking somebody's awareness to their breath, to help, the box breath you talk about, I assume you're sort of that breathe in.
Yeah, so it's breathe in, hold, breathe out longer, hold, breathe in. So that was the box breath that we looked at doing.
And I've seen your Qigong on Instagram. You've speeded it up, I think.
Yes,
it's really a fun way to sort of see, your practice together, which is really lovely.
Yeah,
amazing. And then you kind of your daughter as well. I mean, you had your daughter not very well, over this time too. So you had to also think about her recovery and her strengthening and resilience building. Tell me about what happened.
Same thing, Claire. We just started with, Layla had unfortunately had costochondritis, which is inflammation of the chondrial cartilage, and it goes down the sternum, across the thoracic. Incredibly painful. Mm-hmm. Brought on by a viral infection. Now, we started with the same principle with Layla, just really checking in. And then at one point, I mean, she was very, very ill, couldn't move, couldn't get out of bed. And it was the same thing, really. Let's get you out, let's sit in we created a space outside in the summer house, actually, which was her space, so she could get out of the house and actually sit outside. And the power of nature and the power of just being out in the fresh air is really powerful. And then looking at breath, We did a lot of stretches with Layla. We did a lot of qigong with Layla. She wanted to join in.
I bet she did. It looks fun.
Yeah. We did some Pilates work with her, stretching out the chest work with her. Again, the same thing with the nutrition. We did lots of, really great smoothies and lots of fresh fruits and lots of vegetables. And just really picked her own. She'd go off and pick her strawberries and go over and pick, tomatoes and lettuce and cucumbers. And, so she was outside enjoying her space. And I think that creativity piece, drawing, painting, laughing, the laughter piece,
I'm a massive fan of it.
Yeah, is
it's
really
a great way to change state, isn't it? Because of course you could, if you imagine, her so young and feeling so paralyzed by how she was feeling and how that would impact, wanting to go and play with her friends and, be with her mates and do those things, and yet just feel this, so to actually find a way to shift the state and smile, something that brings joy.
And to fill your body with endorphins, it's magical, it is just a really great laugh and a smile, and it can change your mood so much, and we had to really look at those principles through that. And it took 12 weeks in and out of hospital for her to really start to feel that she was on top of that. And mentally, it's challenging for us, but for an 11-year-old, it's very challenging not to be able to, as you say, connect with your friends, go out, see people,
with ease.
So we really did do an awful lot of work with her to try and create awareness, and she still does this now. She is recovered.
I was going to ask what stuck around for her. What does she continue to do at 11 years old? What things does she keep doing?
She does everything. So she will check in with herself in the morning. How am I feeling? And we will go through this breath work with her. We'll go through the awareness piece with her. She eats incredibly healthy. She's a real dynamic eater. She's loves the nutritional side of it. So she's she bakes and she cooks and she chops and she prepares, and so and she loves that piece. And now she does her stretches every morning. She gets onto the floor and she'll still stretch out her chest. She is very aware of that, and just likes to be outside as well, so which is great.
And I guess she's had obviously such an experience that she does not want to repeat. So if she can see what helped her and see what could actually become a preventative, I'm sure that really wills her on to keep doing those things that you
And I also think it's it's the fear, isn't it? Sometimes the fear of I don't want to revisit that. So that's another piece as well, is releasing the fear, and looking at being present. We're fine, healthy, happy, safe, secure. Let's work on today, and keeping that presence and keeping that stillness sometimes is really important piece. Let's not look at what's going to be happening tomorrow, the next day, 2 weeks time, 3 weeks time.
So it's natural for us to go to you now as this wonderful mentor, even mentoring your own family, and of course it's beautiful that you can, bring that into your own, family space as well as outside of that. But your mindset is as I've described, actually, as strong as your holistic pillars of nurture, nature, and nutrition. But how many of those that positive mindset has always been with you, and what do you think maybe has developed over time?
I've always been, as my father used to say, very strong-willed, very determined. I think very strong, very determined, but now it's the trust element. It's the trust that there is an empowering piece when you know that I've opened up the Pandora's box, if you like, and now I'm never going back in that box. So now it is a trust, I do trust in my own intuition. I do have the awareness, and through the study work and through the practice, and I practice what I preach every single day. And the more you step forward, the more it opens up for the most amazing connection and community, and you meet the most incredible people. And so it's never to be afraid. I don't want to look back. I want to be stepping forward and moving forward with purpose, and with a real sense of my own strength. And I think that's really the piece that I've brought on from the last 8 months, was I always had the strength, but I didn't have the purpose, and I didn't have the vision piece. And
attach it to.
Yeah, I think so.
Wow. I'm literally, even though I know elements of that story, I'm still sitting here thinking, wow, that, takes some, and your strength and resilience really comes across. Before we go, because obviously I could keep you on here and keep asking you questions. It's very easy. But I respect your time. So let's look at just 3 quick fire questions that I'd like you to answer, that I'm getting everybody in this project to answer. And that is, what is your favorite book? Your best ever book?
Well, it's one of, but I have read this quite a few times now, particularly over the last sort of 6 or 7 months. But Big Calm by Elizabeth Gilbert is my sort of go-to at the moment for inspiration, and unlocking that creative process. It was the book I started off reading 8 or 9 months ago, and I've just completed it again. So it makes me laugh, it makes me smile, and it's lovely and engaging, and just a great book to say, okay, come on, you can do it, you can get on and you can do it, don't feel stuck, just take the step, just open up. It just opens up the magic, and I think it's a great book for that sort of stepping point and that starting piece.
Oh, I totally agree with you. Elizabeth Gilbert's writing, what I always love is that it resonates, like almost word for word, what goes on in my mind, my heart, my guts, it literally, and so every time I read one of her books, or I see her on Instagram being real and authentic, and she's just, an incredible inspiration. But that particular book is literally like your creativity just goes, and you feel able to do it and go for it. So yeah, I'm totally with you there. I'm a massive fan. So out of all your Pandora's box of self-care, what one self-care, I know it's hard, what one self-care do you think everybody should do?
Check in with yourself, check in hourly if you need to, but check in, when you aren't feeling great, or you are feeling great, just really look at that check-in process, and adjust your day. I've gone in the days when, I'll check in and say, actually, I'm not feeling great, but I'm still going to, I'm still going to check on. I'm still going to do my own thing today, and I've got meetings, and I've got this, and I've got that, and I've got the other. And then at the end of the day, you feel so exhausted. I don't do that anymore. So I check in, and then I tailor my day, and accordingly. And I think the check-in piece, 5 minutes, and that's a really great self-tip.
Just being aware of why something made you feel a certain way, sort of question it a little bit, and sort of delve into it a little bit about why it's left you sort of feeling a certain way. I think that check-in, the awareness that you so clearly prioritize within your work, it really does come across with that particular self-care tip. And there's one last thing, what one thing have you deeply learned about yourself during this pandemic?
I think for me, the resilience of just, when things can feel very overwhelming, that really just the sitting still, and there is always a way. There's always a way forward. There's always a way out. There's always a way that, and it's trusting in yourself to just look at that first step, and to take that first step, and to not give up, not give up, and really just keep going. Just, it opens up. Things open up as you start to take that step, and it's the trust in the first step, and it's the don't give up. Just be the resilience piece is, things get tough. Things are tough. But there is always a solution. It might not be the solution you want, but there is always a way forward. There's always a solution, and that's been a big lesson.
Massive. Thank you so much for joining us today. There is so much I'm going to take from that, from mind mapping. We'll definitely be looking at some qigong for the whole family, because our family loves to get involved with each other.
Yeah, perfect.
I think that would be incredible. Thank you so much for sharing and being part of this project. To think that within our lifetime we could end world hunger is
it's amazing
in itself with the Hunger Project. So just huge thank you. And for everybody that has donated to the Hunger Project, they will receive this interview along with all the other interviews and the other workshops. So it's a really powerful piece. So thank you so much for sharing your time.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me, Claire. It's a pleasure.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.